Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Compass One podcast series here at the Vizient Connection Summit. This is day 2 and podcast number 2, and we've got a full lineup for you all afternoon of some wonderful podcasts. And today, right now, at this moment, is one of those wonderful podcasts. And joined by 3 awesome folks up here, we're going to be discussing achieving net zero carbon emissions one plate at a time. And to help me do that are my 3 guests. First, I'll introduce Beth Schenk. Beth is the Chief Environmental Stewardship Officer for Providence Health, one of the largest health systems in the United States, supporting Providence's vision for health for a better world via a stable climate and healthy planet. Beth, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
And also joining us is Lisa Roberson. She is the National Director of Wellness and Sustainability for Morrison Healthcare, where she partners with health systems to create healthier and more sustainable food environments. Lisa, thanks for joining us on the dock.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, and last but not least, Chef Jeffery Quasha. Chef Quasha is the Senior Director of Culinary Innovation for Morrison Healthcare and the Culinary Sustainability Lead for Compass Group Global, representing over 200,000 chefs across the globe. That sounds pretty impressive.
It's a lot of chefs.
That's a lot of chefs. Well, thanks for joining us here on the podcast. We're going to have a great discussion. And Beth, let's just jump right into it. From your point of view, what is the role of sustainability as it relates to healthcare food services?
Well, healthcare has a special interest in environmental stewardship for a few reasons. One of which is healthcare is pretty polluting. It turns out that healthcare in the United States is responsible for about 8.5% of our nation's annual greenhouse gas emissions.
Oh, wow.
Globally, about 5%. So we're taking that seriously because we don't want to be contributing to this problem, which causes harm to health, environmental injustices, and harm to our whole planet, which is, as a Catholic health system, part of our commitment of care for our common home. Now, how does that relate to food? Well, food turns out to have some significant contributions itself.
I'm sure.
And so we think about a variety of issues that we're addressing, and I'm just going to give you a quick mnemonic.
Sure.
That's We Act. That is our framework for driving down greenhouse gas emissions. And that stands for waste, energy and water, agriculture, food, chemicals, and transportation. So that A is where we're focusing and where we've been working with Morrison quite a bit, because Morrison serves about 80% of our hospitals across Providence. So it's really important to think about this from the greenhouse gas emission reduction angle, from waste reduction, because food waste is such a big challenge in the U.S. particularly, from packaging waste, and also making sure that we're providing healthy, nourishing, comforting food, not only to all the patients that we care for, but for the people caring for the patients that we care for.
Right, very important. And Lisa, let me ask you, how do you help people like Beth kind of achieve these goals?
Yeah, so we're very proud to partner with Beth, but we help achieve goals for our sustainability leaders in 3 ways. Within food service operations, the first way is through goal setting, mutual goal setting, and helping to align our programs. The second way is through governance and thought leadership, and the third way is actually through measurement. So, when Beth and I first started together, that first step is that we came together, we mutually formed a group where we could better understand her mission and her values for Providence Health. And then in that discovery session, we talked about carbon, and Providence Health and their ministries has a really aggressive platform. They can't just stop at carbon neutral. They're looking to, leave the earth better than how they found it. And so I think that's really awesome. But in order to execute those goals, it really takes governance. I think governance is a huge success strategy for us. And through that governance, we have the ability in Morrison and Compass Group to bring thought leadership. Jeffery and I are part of some sustainability work streams within Compass Group. And by having this governance strategy, we work together between our systems. And sometimes we're able to bring practical solutions that have already been tested back to Providence Health to help them be successful. And then last but not least, of course, is measurement. If we don't know what we're doing, if we're not measuring it, we can't make change. And so those are 3 critical factors in helping Beth and Providence Health to achieve their goals.
You mentioned measurement, and Beth, I'll ask you, data and analytics, what kind of role does that play in this whole goal?
Well, we have two catchphrases. I'm going to throw them both out here. One is engagement is the secret sauce. So engaging people, and data are the backbone to our initiative. So we have had the wonderful opportunity to work with the Providence Global Center, which is a tech development center, Providence's, in Hyderabad, India, and create the We Act scorecard. So we've been able to track across our whole range of environmental stewardship a particular use of a commodity like water, gallons of water, desflurane, nitrous oxide, the amount of it, the cost of it, and the carbon emissions. And we have that every month for every hospital back to January of 2019.
Okay.
We could not be making the decisions we need to make without that data. We can project cost savings. We can project carbon reduction. We can see it historically. So for our food work, we spend a lot of time talking about data because we're pulling in data that Morrison's able to get for us. So for instance, percent local spend, percent sustainable spend. Those are both on our scorecard right now. What we're working on next is the carbon intensity of meals served. So we're pulling in the purchasing data. This comes through our purchasing amounts. That's how we calculate this, both through the Morrison product of carbon footprint and also to our broader commitment, national commitment of the Cool Food Pledge, which is offered by Healthcare Without Harm and the World Resources Institute. So without access to data, without partnership with our partners, we wouldn't be able to stick to what we have decided is really important, which is data-driven, evidence-based application of improvement.
Yeah. Lisa, you want to expand upon that a little bit from your angle?
Yeah, I think Beth and Providence, taking the lead on data is fantastic because we know that data is so powerful. Data has the ability to make meaningful change. And if we don't have data, we can't make a pivot. We can't know if we're actually targeting our goals, if we're meeting our goals. And so, as Beth mentioned, we provide monthly reports, very detailed on the food that Providence purchases and how it's verified through specific claims, whether it's growth hormone free, is it no antibiotics ever? What are the different types of attributes and verifications? That's a very detailed process, and I think it's a game changer when we can help inform our partners with this kind of data to bring them to a level where they can actually be resilient and make swift change. So I think data is really powerful.
Chef, I'm going to throw it to you now from the back of the house standpoint. How does the back of the house play a role in the overall sustainability of health systems?
Yeah, great question. I think it actually starts with purchasing. For us, it's making sure that the product that's coming in our door is cross-utilized at least 5 times through multiple applications.
Interesting.
We're flipping the script on proteins. I think there's a big push going on right now in terms of less people are into alternative proteins. So for us, leading with plant is a huge opportunity for driving down those carbon emissions. And of course, every day we're talking about tracking when it comes to food waste reduction. And I think that's one of the biggest opportunities we have is understanding where the food waste is coming from and then taking on, how do we stop food waste? And for us, is it a pre-production meeting and then a new term, which really isn't in the culinary industry, is a post-production meeting.
You can make it up as you go. I think that's okay.
We're hashtagging the phrase de-prepping. So when you're thinking about post-production, it's just as important as pre-production because with pre-production, you have forecasting. And then you're forecasting how much food you're going to produce to make sure that you're not overproducing in order to generate waste. But if you're post-production or having that conversation, so as food's coming off the line, you're having a conversation with your cooks and saying, okay, now what are we going to do with it? And there's an opportunity to de-prep it, upcycle it, or align it with food recovery. So then, preventing the food from ever hitting the waste bucket is one of our biggest opportunities.
Yeah. What about menuing? How does that play into a more sustainable operations model? And how important is menuing to sustainability overall?
Yeah, everything starts with the menu.
Yeah.
And when you talk about menu engineering, I think that's one of the biggest keys. We talk about menuing with intention, putting the right food in the right months. So, you're never going to serve, or you should not serve, let's just say that, a tomato salad in December when tomatoes are not in season in the US. So if you're buying fruits and vegetables from outside the country, you're only increasing carbon emissions by transporting that food.
Correct.
And then understanding your local spend, I think is key too. Having that combination of products across the US, but then also sourcing from local farms and local purveyors. One, you're supporting diverse and local spend, but you're also decreasing carbon emissions. Like I mentioned, the rule of 5, I think that's a huge opportunity for us to continue to drive that. Our new patient menu that we recently launched last month has 525 ingredients. So if you think about 63 different diets, 4 different menu styles, and we only have 525 ingredients across the entire menu, that's the rule of 5 being, we're actually putting it into play, which is exciting. It geeks me out about, something as simple as that. But if we can minimize the amount of ingredients, then we're having harder conversations with our supplier partners to make sure that every ingredient that they're producing on our behalf is aligned with our strategic sustainability goals.
Nice. Can I expand upon a little bit of the rule of 5? Kind of give me a very rudimentary kind of example of the rule of 5 in the back of the house.
Yeah, absolutely. For example, coleslaw mix. If you take coleslaw mix and you deconstruct it to the simplest form of red cabbage, green cabbage, onions, and julienne carrots, hypothetically, if you took that coleslaw mix and then you put it on top of a pulled pork sandwich, you have a pulled pork sandwich, hypothetically, in the South. But if you take that same coleslaw mix and you add a little bit of pickled ginger, like a vinaigrette, and then you put it on top of jasmine rice with the same pulled pork, you now have a bowl build. If you take that same pulled pork and you put it on a baguette with some pickled jalapenos, and then take that coleslaw mix and you put that on top with the pickled ginger vinaigrette, hypothetically, you now have a banh mi. So it's just taking basic culinary principles and applying it to a larger audience. And that's kind of the rule of 5. And my team is doing that every day. We're looking at the ingredients that are already on our managed order guide and figuring out new and innovative ways to stay on trend, but to excite our guests with amazing flavors. And of course, everything has to start with delicious.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm all of a sudden hungry. That's great stuff, Chef. Let me ask the group, I'll ask all three of you, anyone can answer, is how important is engagement as part of a stewardship program? I mean, engagement is a big role in it. How important is that, Beth?
Well, as I said originally, this work, so our phrase, we act, it means we, doesn't mean just me and our team or you. It means everyone. And we have 120,000 caregivers or employees in Providence. And so we consider that's who gets this work done. It's everybody. It's everybody from the kitchen to the janitorial staff to the physicians and nurses to engineers. And if they don't know about the program or don't care about the program, it's not going to get done. So engagement, or getting people involved, invited, included, informed, with instructions as necessary, with data as we have it. That's why I say that's what I mean when I say engagement is the secret sauce. It's the fuel and a necessary and important, unavoidable challenge too, because we have so many people and it's constant turnover. Yeah. But it's super important.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lisa, please.
I have some thoughts about this.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I think working in this field in sustainability, a lot of times the term is very nebulous. Like nobody really understands what that means. We want you to be more sustainable. And maybe there's a certain percentage of the population who really understands it and educates themselves. But for the most part, when we make change, we have this saying, let's meet customers where they are. Let's meet customers, caregivers, communities where they are. And that's important to start out. But engagement is about bringing them along the journey and then helping to make it meaningful to them. So Tommy, if I said to you, hey, we're doing some great work here, which we are. Mm-hmm. All three of us are working to reduce Scope 3 emissions. Are you excited about that?
Not in the least. I'm sad to say. Yeah,
what does that mean?
Right.
So, but if I told you that we partner, Jeffrey's working with growers and we're working with food service companies to make change. And we're doing strategies in healthcare because we have so many hospitals and they're greenhouse gas emitters. And all of us are working together to make change so that your grandchildren would be able to eat a banana, or they would eat an avocado or rice, chocolate, honey, things that we take for granted that actually could be gone if with global warming. It's almost getting too hot to actually produce these items. So the work that we're doing is reducing that impact of global warming so that, your grandkids, our families one day can continue to enjoy the foods that we've all grown up with and love.
And I'm in then.
Okay,
especially because you mentioned chocolate. Because you mentioned chocolate, I'm in. Chef, from your standpoint, I'm curious about engagement, especially with the back of the house.
Yeah, I think everything starts with the back door. It's the food that's coming in. But a lot of the work that Lisa and Beth have been doing around good, better, and best is kind of the ideology that we're taking forward with Morrison Healthcare and Compass Group on a global scale. Instead of taking an approach to sustainability from the top down, we really need to take a bottom-up approach and empowering our chefs, our culinarians, and our cooks every single day to be more sustainable. And so we're working together with Lisa, with the North American Culinary Council, to develop a bunch of micro lessons relating to sustainability on a good, better, best mentality. But if you can think about empowering a cook, if they could make one change, every couple months, hypothetically, if we could eliminate tasting spoons from our kitchen and move to metal spoons, if we could get rid of condiment PCs in our retail space and we move to pumps, if we could eliminate a single-use plastic wrap and we went to putting a pan lid on top. Those are the changes that inspire our chefs, that they feel like they're part of something bigger. And, when you start getting more and more buy-in, and then you take, hypothetically, 700 to 1,000 accounts across the entire country, you start this wave, this huge tidal wave of sustainability that's happening. And we also think about putting sustainability out front where, as much as you have a safety moment, could we potentially have a sustainability moment every day where we're speaking sustainability? Because the more we speak it, the more we do it, the more we're going to create change.
Yeah.
And I would add, particularly to food, the two areas that we get the most comment about in healthcare related to this is waste and food, because everybody touches a lot of waste and everybody eats every day.
Sure.
So it's both of them, but especially food, because food is more joyful than waste typically. It's a wonderful way to connect with people. And just like what you're saying, Jeffrey, a way to really explain why are we moving more toward plant forward? Why is beef an issue? We work also with Morrison on our communication. So every other week, we share one of the recipes about using food that would be waste, reusing it in creative ways. And those get a lot of hits from our caregivers. So it's just a really great way to connect with people and help move this all forward.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that would lead me to my final question is just, how do you feel about how optimistic are you about the ability to drive sustainability practices in healthcare? I mean, it seems like both of you guys are very optimistic about it, but what do you see maybe in the near future and down the road with driving sustainability in healthcare? Anybody? You want to go, Lisa?
Okay, well, what makes me most optimistic about driving sustainable change is partnerships. I think we're here to talk about that, and we cannot make change alone. Absolutely not. And when we have the ability to partner with forward-thinking thought leaders such as Beth and Providence Health, we have the ability to grow together. We have the ability to empower each other to succeed. We basically make each other better. And I think about what we're trying to accomplish. Reducing carbon emissions is a team sport. It is not an alone sport. We all have to cross the finish line together, or else, we can't do it alone. We just can't do it alone. So partnerships are key.
Yeah. Jeffrey?
Yeah, and taking what Lisa said, using that power of partnership and leveraging our partnership with our supplier partners, major manufacturers across the country, we're finally aligned in terms of sustainability, purchasing, and culinary, which is, culinary backing sustainability. It's taken a little while, but it's really full speed ahead. And then on the healthcare side, if we pull that in, not only are we healing people, but we're healing planet at the same time. I mean, that is the power of every plate that we're putting out. And it's an amazing message.
Yeah. Beth?
I get asked this question a lot, and it's a great question because a lot of people are overwhelmed by our planetary challenge. And I spend so much time thinking about solutions and the problem and how we define it and talk about it. And so in the end, yeah, I am optimistic. Now, I'm optimistic that we can do it. I'm optimistic that we have the solutions. We live in a world of solutions. We see it all the time.
Sure.
I think, though, that whether we do it or not is basically up to us. I mean, all of us who are alive right now, this is what I say to every adult who's alive right now. This is on us. And what we've learned from the climate trends and the warming trends is this very decade right now, the 2020s, is critical for the next decades and even centuries.
Yes, I agree.
So this is something that I'm really proud of Providence for doing, is saying to do all we can by 2030. We don't mean by some future date. We mean right now. So I take that very seriously. And that we see success and progress gives me great optimism.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said. Thank you all three for so much for being here on our podcast today. This is very informative and awesome and very inspiring on what the future holds for sustainability when it comes to our healthcare. And you guys are leading the way. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks.